What do you do when the company decides to downsize? What do you do when you lose your job and you have mountain stack of bills to pay? What do you do when that's the only source of income? Join me on this video as I take you through on the steps to take when you lose your primary source of income. That's your job. Welcome back. I'm very sure right now you're well familiar of people losing their jobs, either your friends, your family member, or your close relative. And throughout this pandemic, loss of jobs has been very common, especially for business, in terms of how they stay afloat. But on this other end of you as a person who has lost a job, there are so many things which run through your mind, so many emotions. Nobody is immune to job loss, regardless whether it is a pandemic or not. Job losses are something which is continuous, and most of the job loss, some of the job loss are not due to your own fault. So at that particular time, there's so many emotions that usually runs through somebody's mind. And they say there's a psychological process that somebody goes through. And that's the first one. Number one is, of course, the denial part of it. Number two is the anger. Number three, the depression part of it. And then the last one is, of course, the acceptance, which I don't want to dwell so much on the psychological part of it, but I want to dwell so much on the financial part of it. Life has to go on, regardless whether you've lost a job. So what are the things that you need to do so that you can keep yourself afloat, you can keep yourself sane, and how you can manage your finances? And I'll take you through 4 steps which I hope are going to be helpful. If you're one person that you're going through this process, I pray that this message will help you a lot in terms of how you manage your personal debts or your finances. And also share to your friends who may be going through the same thing here in terms of job loss. So I'll dive right to the points. And of course, the number one thing that you need to do, of course, is to crunch those numbers. You need to know in detail, how much am I spending? What's my expenditure? What's my expenses on a monthly basis? Which are my bills on a monthly basis? These are things that you need to know. The figures in actual, to detail, how much you're spending on a monthly basis. You need to have knowledge on how much you have been spending by your household. And I think there's some other things that you need to, 3 things that you need to have a close look at. Number one, of course, you need to know how much you're spending on a monthly basis, so that it can give you an idea in terms of how you're going to finance for the next months before you secure unemployment. And number two, I think one of the things is that once you look at your costing, or how much you spend on a monthly basis, there are some of the things that you need to cut or to manage properly. And to cut expenses is one of the things that you need to also to make it lean, so that you can be able to have a position that you can be able to afford to finance that particular expenses in the coming months. And number 3 is that you need to, at that particular moment, that particular stage, avoid large purchases. It's not the time to purchase, but it's the time to cut down on expenses which are not necessary. So avoid the large purchases. Number 2, and which is very critical, is that you need to communicate to your lenders, your creditors. Number one, I start with the personal loans that or debts that you have with individuals. Call them up, talk to them, explain your situation. All of us are humans, and nobody, once you explain to them properly, everybody tends to understand. So make a call to everybody who you have debts, who give you money in terms of debt. Talk to them, explain to them your situation. And number two, the financial institutions, your lenders, call them, explain to them, have a meeting, call them or have a meeting with them and explain your situation. And also it's good to, of course, to have the documentation. If it's a job loss, of course, there is that letter of termination. You need to show the lenders that you're open and honest and truthful. The document, you must show them the document of termination of employment. So that in that situation, you can be able to talk with them. And of course, there's a two scenario basis here that you are requesting, number one, to either for them to suspend the repayments, or number two, to reduce the repayments, which is part of course, managing your personal debts. And it's something that you need to do before. And I think here I need to stress it a bit, that most people, they usually communicate to the lenders or people who they have borrowed money to after they have missed or skipped a particular payment. Don't wait until you've skipped a payment. Go there after, before, and you make an agreement with the lenders or any individual, so that they know from the start this is your situation. So, and also wait for them to respond. If you have written to them, wait for them to respond. If you have had a meeting with them, wait for them to respond, and make follow-ups on those requests. And most of the institutions, they are very flexible to the request. So make sure that you communicate to the lenders before you skip any payments. Because once you skip a payment and you go there and explain yourself, they tend to handle those situations a bit different. So make sure that you have communicated to each individual that you owe. Number two, even the financial institutions, have a meeting with them or write to them regarding your status. Number three, get help. I know this might sound, but get help. And this, what I mean by this is that talk to your friends, close friends, relatives. Explain to them your situation. People are willing to help, but you need to say it. You know, there's a tendency by most of us that you have lost a job, but you keep with the same lifestyle. It's setting you up to more financial problems. Explain, get help. The more you talk about it to your close friends and relatives, the more they will try to help you out. The more you lighten the financial burden on your shoulders. And lastly, last point here is that you must monitor your situation. By monitoring your situation, I mean that you must be very aggressive in terms of looking for another source of income or a job. You replace the current job that you lost. And it does not have to be that you are looking at the same job that you are getting the same salary. It can be even a lower salary, but you are aggressive towards looking for another job. And I think on my conclusion is that once you lose a job, don't be in a hurry to start thinking about businesses that I'm going to do or this and that. Take your time. but not so much time, but take time. Have yourself to relax and compose yourself mentally so that you can know the best course of action in terms of your replacement of the income that you've lost. So in a nutshell is that the four steps that I've explained will help you a lot in terms of dealing with that particular process entirely. And it will also guide you in terms of how you move on to the next step. And sometimes all is not lost. When you lose a job, that does not mean it's the end of it. You find you may even get a job that is even paying higher than what you used to earn, or you get a more satisfying job that you didn't have, or the previous job compared to the previous job. Also, you have learned in terms of finance and planning. That's a point of which you start embracing or learning those things in terms of planning your finances. It's a blessing on its own. It depends on how you look at it, but you have to keep it a positive mindset throughout the entire journey. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If there's somebody who's going through this process I've explained, kindly share that video to them. Remember to like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Also, we have our email address. We'd like to hear from you on how you're managing your personal debt. We'd like to start this journey with you and to ensure that you are on the right path towards financial freedom.